Kaleidoscope.
Kaleidoscope?
Kaleidoscope.
Kaleidoscope. The rainbow thing in a tube.
Mm. You can go with that. That's fine. I just kind of made up words this time.
On air, Ant has finally admitted to just making it up.
No, I usually just do Google Translate, but I don't know. I just decided to say whatever today.
Wow, Ant, what does this word mean?
Are you looking it up? Because
What does kaleidoscope mean?
okay,
Hold
um,
on, Google. What does
mm,
Okay, I just realized I don't know how to spell kaleidoscope. Kaleidoscope mean. There we go. Thank you, Google. You're a wonderful thing.
you seem like you're having a fun time. I
I
know.
mean,
I know.
all of
I'm
our
having a
shows
fun time.
begin with me or you Googling something at some point.
That's about right. We are not very prepared. We'll get there one day. Maybe in a new
One day.
format.
Ooh, do you want to tell the people?
Yeah, this is probably going to be the last episode of this season. So yeah,
Forever.
no, we're just going to change things up to be more researched and less off the cuff. I
Like
mean,
what I'm
we'll,
doing right now. I am doing research on what kaleidoscope means. This may be very boring because kaleidoscope literally is just the definition of that toy.
I mean, also we can't see you researching. You're not even like furiously typing into your keyboard, so we can't even hear that. So
I don't own a mechanical keyboard. I mean, I can do like I don't even know if you're hearing that. I'm just hitting the keyboard somewhat. It's not helping.
it sounds like a piece of paper is freely blowing in the breeze. That's all I heard. Like it's free, like free.
I mean, that's the sound of some paper near my desk just flapping.
Cool. That was a good story. We're having a great start. Oh,
Yeah.
so fun news. Fun news. I figured out Google Docs.
I've been interested in hearing this story for a little while now. Please do tell. I'm
So
excited.
so I am not always the smartest man, right? We've already gone over this. I'd actually never really figured out how to do Google Docs, right? I know we use our the shared page for the blank space topic list, and that's in a Google Doc, but I just had that in a tab in my bookmarks this entire time.
Just never close it, otherwise it will be lost to the ether.
No,
That's
it's
how it
it's it's in
exists.
the bookmarks, right? It's in its own little tab, right? But
Hmm.
I realize that it's not something you download or anything else like that, or something that you need a link for. It's literally just an app in
Yeah.
Google. I didn't. We've been doing this for a while, and I just realized that. So I feel a little sad. I'm not gonna lie.
I remember distinctly at a point showing you what Google Docs not maybe not the entirety of it, but like this is what Google Docs is, and I remember you nodding and being like, uh huh. I now come to find out many moons later. Oh, well, not even many moons, like many full moons later.
Hmm. Yeah.
Just took it that way.
Yep.
All right, cool. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you're all caught up.
I am. I
Are
I am caught up now.
are you enjoying the full Google Docs suite?
Actually, yes, because it's so much easier to work on things now. I don't have to keep things in a USB or throw them in an email. So that's immensely easier when I'm working on a document.
Boy, it's so nice. It's so
I
nice.
am so sad that I went through my 2 years of community college without that.
Oh my god, I remember the day that I found out about it. It was just so nice cuz basically what I did was I was just like, man, all right, we got to do a group project. What should we do? Like how should we divvy this up? And then somebody brought up Google Docs and taught me about it, and I don't know why this wasn't a thing sooner.
Hmm.
I mean, I know like maybe technology wasn't there. Basically just the idea of like just everyone works on a shared internet document. It's so nice. It makes things so easy.
Yeah, it's stupid easy.
never having to do anything. It's great.
Mhm. Let's see. I mean, just now that I've started up a university now, this is going to make things way easier. Oh, and group projects? Man, they're doable now. Not just
Hmm.
awkward group chats on like Messenger or like, you know, anything else. Oh, what a
Yeah,
time to be
it's
alive.
oh, what a time to be alive. No, it's super nice. It makes like everyone's lives super easy. But
hmm
we're not here to just heap praise on Google for all day. I mean, that would be a small topic. We have topics. We have things to talk about.
Ooh, I actually have a topic that's not on
You
our
do?
list
Oh, okay.
because I just remembered
Surprise me.
it, and it's kind of fun. Have you ever gone scuba diving?
No, I have not. I live in New Jersey, where scuba diving is not common.
You are right, and I wouldn't go in that water either way. But so over the little hiatus we had, right? I ended up going on vacation, right? And I ended up going scuba diving down in like this little cave kind of deal called the Devil's Den, and it makes me kind of want to get my scuba diving certification.
Hmm. All right. So you enjoyed it enough to get, I guess, a license to do this? Do you need
No,
a license?
no, it was basically like a training thing that they did, right? They had a guide with me the entire time, right? And all that kind of stuff. And they had us go into like this crystal clear freshwater, right?
Hmm.
It was pretty cool to go into, and it kind of makes me want to get my scuba diving license now. You know, like this is
All
something I
right.
wouldn't mind doing, like if I went on vacation to like the Keys or like anywhere else and like going scuba diving again, kind of deal. And just being able to do it would be pretty cool. You know?
Sounds super interesting. Because I was gonna say I've always had like a mild interest in doing scuba diving, but I've never
hmm
been somewhere that's been offered easily to me. It's I mean it's been offered, but it's like, oh, go do this thing and this thing. But like that does sound pretty exciting. So like, how far did you go underwater doing this,
Oh, we went
or
like
was it
40.
just
We
kind
went
of
like.
bobbing your head?
Oh yeah, we went like 40 feet.
Oh, okay. Wow, pretty deep.
Yeah, I mean it's the deepest I've ever been in water.
Hmm.
I mean, I bet there's like some professional scuba divers like, ha, at that, but
You know, in our audience, those professional scuba divers.
mm,
But certainly, that's interesting. That's interesting. So, was there anything down there in the cave that was interesting?
well, yeah, actually, the thing is, like, the water was crystal clear, so like you could see like all the way 40 feet down and 40 feet up, kind of deal, right?
Hmm.
Also, like they had fish in there too that he was giving us shrimp, which we can like get feet that were fed from out of our hand, kind of deal. So like the fish were like coming right up to us too. So it was actually pretty cool. And like it was this. This is actually in a cave kind of deal, which had like an open skylight right above us.
Mm-hmm.
As I make hand gestures that nobody can see.
I I can see them in
Thank
my
you.
heart.
But yeah, it actually was a pretty cool experience. I feel like I would like love to do that like again sometime, and it may be worth it. Have you ever? Did you ever like want to get certifications or anything like that, or snorkeling, or something?
Um, I mean, even though most of my vacations have been spent in like shore towns and beachish areas, I've never actually gone snorkeling or anything like that. I have gone on a jet ski before, and that is immense fun. That is just so much fun. But I can't say I've ever done like snorkeling or deep sea diving or anything like that. It's always appealed to me, but like I've just never had easy access to it.
That's fair. That's fair. It's always been the same for me. I'm lucky enough to have some relatives down in Florida, which I can kind of have like a little base camp up. So I've gone snorkeling a few times, but the diving was a completely new experience, and it was nice to be diving in like super super clear water.
Yeah, that's how I hear you have to do it. You have to do it in an area where you can see what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes the experience so much better.
Mm-hmm. Completely.
Definitely. I I'm a little jealous that you got to do that, but
It's okay. I'm
now I
poor
just
now.
But now I have a thing that when I go on vacation next, I can try and shoot for to say like, oh, I did this too.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Anything else on your vacation that was
Oh
noteworthy?
yeah, we went to a place that gave us unlimited lobster.
Ooh, that's always nice.
Right. It's unlimited for a reason.
I mean, lobster is still lobster. I've
You know,
never had
it made me realize.
bad lobster.
I mean, it was. You're right. It wasn't bad, right? But like, it wasn't good either, right? Like, it's not something I want to do again, kind of deal.
Am I hearing you? Am I hearing you like pinkies upping this unlimited lobster experience?
Um,
I'm over here like, I guess I'll just eat another peanut butter and jelly sandwich out of the trash I found at a dumpster behind my work. And you're like, the unlimited lobster wasn't up to my standards. I'm over here like, well, I can eat a few more Tic Tacs today. That sounds like a good meal.
I mean, look, it was pricey for what it was. I mean, but I'm just saying, right? Like, I think I would have rather just paid for one decent meal than gone for like that buffet they had set up there. I mean, we went like 2 hours out of our way to go there, so it was a time. I'm glad I did it once, but I'm never doing it again.
Sir Anthony, can I have another breath mint to quench my massive hunger? I'm having trouble nourishing myself.
Look, this was
No, I'm too busy filling with lobster. I don't even like it that much.
All right. So, how much do you think that was? Like the unlimited lobster. I'm kind of curious.
Put me on the spot.
What's your ballpark on how much do you think I spent on that?
So I'll give you the reason before I give you the number.
Okay.
So around me in Jersey, there is a bar that offers unlimited crab.
Okay.
Unlimited crab, you soft shell crab, not soft shell, like shelled crab, snow crab. That's what it is, snow crab. You break the shell off yourself and you eat as much as you want.
Mm-hmm.
That is, I think, $40 or $50. So lobster, I would think, is around that price. So my money is on between 40 and 50.
Yeah, like 55. Yeah, that was actually on course actually.
That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean if you get good lobster, you're already paying like 30 to $40
Mm-hmm.
just for a single meal.
Mm-hmm.
Unlimited for 50 ain't too bad.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. The friend I went with, he had 8 lobsters. That was impressive. I was proud of him.
I enjoyed a lovely pack of breath mints. It was wonderful. I had some stale potato chips.
Dude,
It was good.
do you need me to take you out for dinner, or do you need a hug?
I don't need your date. I don't need your dinner. No, but it's that sounds pretty good. It's especially I'm guessing you went to like a shore town, like somewhere near a beach.
Actually,
Seafood
it
is
was.
always good.
So here's the thing, right? This was on the way back from like the scuba diving thing, right? Which we had to do like somewhere in like Central Florida kind of deal. Like
Okay.
it's in this area called Ocala. And on the way back, we basically went through Orlando, and they had it on Orlando.
Oh, okay. So you got some of the mouse's lobster dinner.
Basically, yeah.
Some Mickey Mouse.
You got some wild facts there, guy.
Mickey Mouse was your server? You
Okay.
just didn't want to brought it over?
More like, I think she was like a Danish lady or Norwegian. I don't know. She was Scandinavian. But, yeah.
From that wild country of Scandinavia.
We got a picture. She actually took her picture and it was complimentary. So that was neat.
with both of you holding up your lobsters, I'm guessing your friend just being like 8 lobsters deep at this point, and him just sitting there like, ugh, I don't know if I can have another. Okay, never mind, I can have one more.
That's about how it went. That's about how it went.
It's about accurate.
Our good mutual friend is a good man.
I've got a good guess, but I'll guess another time. All right, cool. Any other notable stories?
I guess we did go kayaking. That was kind of neat. It was like just after the flooding that they had down there, right? Not the hurricane that's going on now, but
I was about to clarify. I'm like, and you might want to clarify that statement very quickly.
Okay, so this is going to come after the hurricane. I just want to let you guys know this was the tail end of Harvey, right? That was the one that hit Texas.
Yes.
Cool.
You went down at the tail end of Harvey and came well before Irma.
Yes. So
good.
But even just from that, the waters were pretty strong. So I definitely use muscles. That's for sure. I feel like I became a stronger man from that.
I was gonna say kayaking's no joke. That is something I don't really have a huge interest in because the upper body strength is kind of the upper body strength and coordination you need for that. As a leisure time activity, not into it.
That's fair. But we ended up going kayaking through like a national park kind of deal. So, or is it a state park? I forget which. By the way, nice place.
It does sound nice. Mm-hmm. They if only they had a lazy river, I'd be on board with that.
Ooh, I know there's actually a thing like that up by Ocala again, right? It's basically this place called Rainbow River. I didn't go this time, right? But it was one of the times I went, I think it was like 8 years ago or something, right? 10 years ago, maybe. And it's this crystal clear spring water that you can just go on a tube, float all the way down, and they'll drive you back up.
Okay.
It's a highly recommended vacation, I think.
Well, all right. So there's. So I've been trying to get people interested in tubing for a very long time. There's a place that my dad always used to take us to, and I've been back to once or twice since then.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically a place where you go kayaking, rafting, or tubing down the Delaware River. It is not Delaware River near Philly. It is Delaware River much more north.
I like having just nice 2 arms.
Just 2 arms? You'll be fine.
Yeah, actually, I have a few friends that I know that do that.
It's so much fun. I keep trying to get people to do it, but I mean it's a bit of a hassle to get up there, but I'm gonna do it. Probably next summer because we're at the cold season now. Winter has come.
You just need people determined. That's all.
Well, I guess I'll ask and see what happens. Stay tuned, audience, for the stunning conclusion to no, now it's cold.
But I'll sign up with you for that for next year.
All right. I'll keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm. Get a few people going. Get like one of those big party boats of Raptors.
Ooh, those are fun.
Mm-hmm. I guarantee 3 people are going to fall out.
I mean, that's the fun part, though, is that if you fall out of the raft, you just swim around in it.
Mm-hmm.
You're fine. I mean, the water, like I said, this is not like Philly, Delaware River. We're talking about much more north, where the water is
this is like
so clear, but it's nice.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Okay.
But I believe we actually had actual topics. I just kind of diverted us.
Tell me more about your vacation.
No, that was pretty much it, man. Other than that, it was a bunch of lazing around.
That's a good vacation. That has always been like a good vacation to me. I'm not one for like making massive plans and sprinting around to get to places on time. It is like, this is my vacation, I'm going to relax.
Yeah, that's how I see things too. Like, if we have to rush to places, we're doing it wrong. You're not having a good time.
Yeah, and I understand like sometimes there's a reason for doing that. Like it's an early thing that you need to get to, but like, man, I just want my vacation to be chill. I want it to be like just I go on my own time.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's how I like doing things too.
But we do actually have topics to talk about.
Mm-hmm, we do.
Let's get to them and let's see if we could speed through them. I guess ? All right. So we hinted at this a while ago, and we're gonna break podcast tradition of talking about a topic and then never talking about it.
Yep.
by actually talking about the Stanley Parable and the Beginner's Guide,
Yeah, follow up.
the video games.
Yeah, follow up.
So, quick introduction questions. So, Ant, have you played the Stanley Parable and the Beginner's Guide?
Nope.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Yep.
All right, skipping to next topic.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so you've played both of them at this point.
Mhm.
What are your general thoughts on both of them? Just general, like surface level.
See, the thing is, right? Like, I think they're fun experiences, right? They're cool to go through and all. They're they're not something that you can sink like 40 hours in, but there's something that if it's on sale, definitely worth picking up just to have the experience of because they both push like interesting narrative points.
Hmm. That's definitely a point I would make as well. Is that
Like,
both of the games have very well written stories to them, and the dialogue is well written, and the game itself is interesting to play. But what you come for is kind of the writing of the actual game itself.
hmm
But I will take a step above yours and recommend these games at full price whenever, because I think the Stanley Parable is super interesting to play through. And I'll go as far to say the Beginner's Guide is one of the more incredible story experiences I've had in a game.
really,
Yes. Yes,
okay,
I will say that much.
okay, I don't,
But before I qualify that,
okay,
before I explain, uh, how about you give a brief description of what the Stanley Parable is, and I'll give a brief description of the Beginner's Guide.
okay. The Stanley Parable is basically a. It starts off as like a narrative game where you just follow what the guy said, what the narrator is saying. But you basically have open-ended choices on if you actually listen to him or not. And it pretty much all just goes from there. Different things happen based on what you decide to listen to and what you don't decide to listen to. It basically pokes fun at all the ideas of that, how how on rails should something be, right? And whether that's good or not. And it kind of plays with it both being good and both being bad, right? Because the story it gives itself is kind of a boring story if you just do exactly what the narrator says, right? But
Mm-hmm.
if you decide to deviate, that's when the interest that's when it gets interesting. When you decide to go off the path, or when on that the narrator's journey, you decide to go a different path, and it gives you many paths to explore. All of them are fully written out, by the way, so it's not truly a real choice because that's there for you to kind of do. But it kind of
Right.
plays with the idea of you having choice at all.
Yeah, the choice you are making, even if you're making a choice against the game's wishes, is still a choice that the game has made for you.
Yeah, yeah. So that's pretty much the best way I can describe it. It's a very interesting run through of a narrative.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's an interesting way to play with a video game narrative of person walks up to a hallway and takes the door on his left, and then when you walk into the room there's a door on your left and a door on your right.
hmm
And that's a classic video game thing. In a traditional video game, that would be the left would be towards the main story, and the right would be um, a side thing, like a treasure chest or a side quest or something. It would be something would be over there, but it would be more or less a dead end,
hmm
leading you back to the left. But in Stanley Parable, it says no, no, no. Every single decision you make in this game is an option, and on top of that, it's got snappy writing for everything. The narrator in that game is hilarious.
hmm
Like
Oh yeah, it is a very funny game. I probably
I,
should have mentioned that.
it is such a funny game to play through because the entire time you think you're maybe smarter than the game itself. But then the game comes back just to slap you back down and kind of say, like, no, we knew you were going to do that. We knew you were going to try and... like, at the beginning of the game begins with you are an office worker, and all of a sudden your office is empty, and you go out and explore why your office is empty. But the game also leaves an option for you to just stay in your office and never come out, and that's a valid choice in the game.
Mm-hmm.
The narrator kind of berates you a little bit. He's like, well, person picked the most boring... Stanley picked the most boring option in the world and just went back to work, being the petty man that he is. And it's like, oh, alright. It's interesting. I really, really dig the Stanley Parable.
Oh yeah, I think it's pretty awesome too.
Mm-hmm. But I didn't expect to like this beginner guide as much as I did. When I played the beginner's guide, I just knew it was the sequel from the guy who wrote who made the Stanley Parable, and I like the Stanley Parable. But the beginner's guide is really interesting. So the beginner's guide is the story of game development, weirdly enough. The narrator of the game is the game creator himself. The person who made the Stanley Parable and the beginner's guide is the guy narrating this. And he says, oh, so I thought it'd be really interesting to take you through a journey through someone I looked up to before I made games. This person made all the games you're about to see, and I'm going to take you through them and give you a commentary as to what I take from them and what they do. And that's the whole game, basically. It is the story of this other game developer that the main guy likes, that has an interest in his work. And over that time, you start to notice the other game developer create different experiences through his games. And the game kind of takes you through what that means and what you're kind of experiencing through that. I don't want to say entirely because I want to qualify a spoiler warning for that.
I mean,
because it's the entire reason I like the game I can't explain without spoiling it.
I mean, it's just basically the whole game deals with how one person can get meaning out of something that's different than somebody else, right? Like, you can see that the main game director himself, right, that made the game itself, he is really invested in this guy's work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at a point, you start to realize it's to a very unhealthy degree.
That's the spoilery part I was trying to avoid.
I mean, you can't really get around that, right? Like,
No, absolutely not. But let me say this. From here on out is spoiler-tastic. I'm going to spoil the beginner's guide and try and explain why I think the game is so interesting.
okay.
So, over the course of these games, you start to see the narrator of the story take on meaning for these games that he assumes himself.
Yes.
Now, the game does a subtle job at this, but it does a very nice job at pointing out that this is the narrator's interpretation of the original author's work. And this is actually a concept in writing called death of the author, which is that whatever I assume of a work is the new meaning of that work. to me at least. Whatever the author's original intentions were can be thrown out a window because whatever I assume for that work is canon. It's now what I think of the work.
Mm-hmm.
And the game itself plays with that idea so well that the entire game is a comment about how this guy has an unhealthy obsession with this guy's work. He reaches out, the narrator reaches out to the original developer and is trying to like pick his brain and talk to him about whatever he's feeling at the time and what his games mean, and all this stuff. And over the time, you get little hints at something sinister that's happening, but you don't quite grasp it until like maybe grasp it if you really are paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
But at the very end, it makes it very clear what's happening. So at the end of the game, you come up against a level called the final thing the original developer ever made, called the Tower. And the Tower was meant for the narrator of the game. The game narrator had essentially stalked this developer into not wanting to do his work anymore, and he created this one last game for the narrator to kind of voice his concerns about it. Now, the sinister part of this game is that the narrator always found meaning in these games where there might not have been, because you find out that the author, the narrator actually altered the original games that you've been playing this entire time.
So that he could find a better meaning within himself.
Within the game and himself.
Mm-hmm.
So you're playing through these games, and all of a sudden, you realize that like you're playing through this section of the game that maybe just is nothing like what the original author intended. And it becomes sharply clear in this final level, the Tower, where the game developer forces the narrator to kind of make changes to the level to actually beat it, to get to the top of the tower. And I find this concept so interesting because it's playing with this age-old concept of death of the author, and it's making it into a brand new thing of a discussion about is this good? Is it good for this character to have made changes to the original author's work to assume a new meaning for it?
Mm-hmm.
Like one example of this, it's for people. I'm not sure why you wouldn't have played the game if you're listening to this part, but basically, at one point in the game, there's a small game that the original game developer made, where basically you go into a house, and your wife / significant other, someone is there with you in this house, and talks to you, and starts making conversation and asks you to do little things around the house, like, oh, go pick this thing up, or go clean this room or something. And while playing it, you do a couple of the tasks, and then the narrator says, alright, I'm going to fast forward through a bit of this because this actually goes on for several hours.
Mm-hmm.
And he fast forwards to the end of it and says, okay, you're free to go. That's altering the game developer's original concept. That's changing his entire basis for this game. Is he possibly wanted it as a social interaction game, just a game where you just
do simple,
meet with another person,
social, repetitive things that it's kind of deal, instead of trying to be like a just end. The one thing that the narrator seems to want to do, the change to all this guy's original work, is always wants them to have an end. And
right, he wants to find some kind of catharsis with him.
Mm-hmm. Instead of understanding that's not the point of these games. There's not always supposed to be an end.
Absolutely, and the game leaves the game wide open to interpretation. There's hints at where it kind of went, but I mean, there's definitely wide interpretation for it, where the game started being altered for you.
Here's the thing with this
And
game, though, right?
yeah,
See, I see this as a great game just for like exploration of the idea of this all, right?
hmm
I don't see the gameplay itself as anything interesting.
no, no, absolutely not. The actual meat of the game is just walking around. That is all it is.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's hard to actually call it a fun time. It's not a game like Duck Game or wow, I went for a really indie title there. It's not a game like Call of Duty or any of these loud, exciting kind of games you play where you shoot a gun or you fight some people.
It's more like
It's
a slow burn.
exactly, but it's also just it's all about exploring this concept
Hmm.
of the game
It's
itself.
basically an interactive book. Is the best way I could say what it is, right?
I would maybe put it that way, but the problem is I don't see this working as a book.
Well, I don't either. That's what I'm
Right,
saying.
right.
Like,
I think it's just meant to be. I guess in a better way, it's meant to be read or listened to or experienced.
yeah, experience is the right words because he actually does send you through some motions of the things, and you get the feeling that there's more that's supposed to happen here that you wouldn't necessarily get just by listening to it, right? Now,
Right.
I find that that's why I'm saying this is worth something on a sale kind of deal, unless like you're really interested on this topic, because it's a great thing just to dive into this like whole discussion idea, right? The whole discussion of like, what does original intent matter when somebody's making a work, right? Or does or is or should you eat or is it even right to continually, just bother an author, with what they've done, right? It
Yeah.
kind of explores all these ideas. Like, does everything have to have a point? Does does it matter what the end game is, right? In some of these games, you know, what does it say about you that you have to have a victory condition, right? All
hmm
that kind of stuff.
It's really interesting. Like that's I entirely agree with your point about purchasing the game. It is certainly not something that you're going to buy and play infinite times and you're not going to invite your friends for multiplayer and all that. But you certainly you certainly are going to have a really I think unique and interesting experience in the game itself,
Hmm.
worthwhile of the money spent for it. But I can see your point where it's like if you're deciding between this and a new open world 80-hour experience on Steam
Hmm.
and you only have money for one, your money might be spent better on the open world experience if that's more your thing. But I do really heavily recommend that game.
Oh yeah,
I do
yeah,
heavily recommend the beginner's guide.
yeah. Like it's definitely worth it just for the discussion points alone, right? But if that's not your thing, it's not going to be your thing, right?
Right.
Like you have to be somebody that's willing to put yourself into that kind of thing. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised when I went through it. But you're only going
Right.
to get like what is it like 2-3 hours, right? That's how long it is.
I think 4 is like average-ish.
Okay, 4 hours.
There's a fair amount of game within it, but even still, it's a short game with a very linear plot. But at the same time, it's again, I think it's really worth it.
Okay, yeah,
But
I can agree with you.
but I do agree with you as well that the game itself isn't for everyone. But I think it's something I've never seen outside of that game. And I will be very interested to see what the developer does next because it's been a little bit since he's done a video game, so I'll have to see what he's doing next.
Now, have you ever played any other sort of games like these?
What do you mean?
Quote unquote, like walking simulators.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've played a fair bit of them, and they're hit or miss.
That's fair. That's fair. Probably think the best one I played of this type of thing was Firewatch, but that still had like a little bit of gameplay in there still.
Yeah, yeah.
Because like
I'm
I do enjoy like that type of like narrative interactive narrative kind of deal, right?
hmm,
But it definitely has to be done well, otherwise it's just going to fall apart.
right. Now, the hard part is there's a lot of games that I kind of can lump into this category,
Dear Esther.
like ranging from Dear Esther, which I'm not a fan of. I'm really not a fan of.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, you could go as far to say as Limbo, like the black and white little platformer. I mean, it's technically a walking simulator. You just basically just walk around and do light platforming.
I mean, that still counts, though, right? I mean, I guess
Possibly.
that, yeah. I mean, like if that's your case, I guess. Well, I guess that would make Firewatch that, because I guess you do some climbing around.
Right,
Mm,
because that's the thing. You get really vague with it, but I get what you mean when you say like a walking sim kind of game, where basically the
mm,
entire point of it is just to experience this narrative. That's
mm-hmm.
it.
And it just kind of depends how well the game connects you with that narrative.
Right. Like for instance, this game is not like Dear Esther or Firewatch or anything like that. But would you consider To the Moon a walking sim kind of game, where you just experience the story?
Damn,
You opened a little box of worms, didn't you?
I totally did, and it is. There's like night crawlers in here, and like somehow some lightning bugs are sitting around too. Like I don't. This there's weird stuff in this box now. But
um,
yeah, I guess that's kind of true, right? Like depending on like how you view things, like that totally can be considered a walking simulator since it's pretty much only one path, right? And well, I guess that's not. I guess you would consider a walking simulator one that literally just has one path, and some of these games have multiple paths. Like you wouldn't consider Stanley Parable like that, right? Because like you can go different paths, kind of deal.
you can, but I mean, the whole point of the game is just walking. That is it. Just experiencing the narrative and just walking in a distance. Listen, we're not going to define walking simulator the entire time we're here. But
I got you.
I will say there is a game I would recommend to someone if they were interested in playing a walking sim kind of game,
Okay,
like Dear Esther, but good.
okay,
Um, I would recommend a tiny little game. God, how much did I pick this game up for? This game is regularly $4. I think I picked it up for 50 cents. It's called Dinner Date,
okay.
and the entire game is that you have invited a girl over to your apartment to have a dinner date.
All right.
And the entire thing is about you waiting for her to show up. The game actually ends within half an hour. The game is less than half an hour long.
Okay.
But it does what I think Dear Esther did wrong. It does right what I think Dear Esther did wrong. Dear Esther's problem, for me at least, was that it spoke in riddles. It spoke very vaguely about everything it ever did. It was like, oh man, I lived on this island for 5 million years, and I've seen the fall and rise of civilizations. And yesterday I looked out into the ocean and I saw a ship, but it wasn't a ship, it was actually a plane that had crashed into the ocean. But the ocean swallowed it up like a massive shark! And then I had pasta for dinner. It's like, what? Like, what? And the entire time it's like, no, you don't get it. He was talking about, like, his abusive mother. It's like, what? No! Dinner Date does something that is very good, very nice in the fact that it is just a man conversing with himself before a date shows up,
Okay.
and
So
all of your choices surround around that.
so it's basically just giving you. It's a little thing that's giving you a feeling,
Right.
It's not
It's giving you a
something.
feeling.
It's not something that's trying to give you like an overall narrative experience, but it's trying to give you just like the feeling of like an instant kind of deal.
Yeah, and it's a simple story that's told somewhat well. I won't say it's like an incredible achievement in writing, but I mean, you feel for the guy, and the choices you make feel like something you'd go through in this situation, because little thought bubbles kind of show up while you're in the game. Of like, okay, you're waiting for this girl to show up, dinner's made, you poured yourself a glass of wine and you're just waiting. What do you do? And it gives you like 10 bubbles that show up and say, oh, you could drink some wine, or you could check out the window, or you could check the food, or like do all these little things, and conversations with yourself kind of spring up around that. It's really interesting.
Okay.
And I think it's simple enough, and not simple in a bad way, but simple enough that you don't get lost in the deep, strong metaphors of Dear Esther.
It's just literally trying to give you the experience of, this is what you may feel kind of during this kind of thing, right?
Exactly.
Give you like a feeling of like anxiousness and waiting, and something that just kind of immerse you in something little.
And it doesn't end with you trying to kill yourself jumping off a tower and then turning into a bird because metaphor. But
is that actually how that ended, or are we just taking the piss?
Dear Esther ended with you jumping off of the tower, but instead of hitting the ground with a nice thud and ending the game, you turned into a bird and sailed over the island.
Ah, Birdman.
Jesus Christ, I don't like that game. Maybe that'll be a topic at some point. Dear Esther.
Nah, I don't want to go. You're not going to make me sit through that.
But I'll write it down. We'll consider it.
Okay.
But
are you looking away from the screen now?
Am I what?
Are you looking away from the screen now?
Kinda.
Good. All right. Next.
All right. So we have a very short time for this topic, but I think it's something I want to talk about. I wanted to talk about this for a while.
Okay.
But we haven't had a chance to yet. So there was an article that came out yesterday or the day before.
Okay.
I forget what site it was on. I'll try and look it up while I'm thinking of it.
Okay, link it in the chat if you can.
Yeah. As soon as I find it. Nintendo has had a interesting history lately.
Okay.
They have kind of garnered a reputation of not printing enough of a product to satisfy the demand.
Mm-hmm.
This has led to a lot of really ugly kind of stuff within getting Nintendo products. Like, if I was interested in getting a Nintendo Switch, the newest Nintendo console right now, let me find out what I would have to pay from Amazon.com to pick up a Nintendo Switch. So a Nintendo Switch regularly goes for $299, and it is being sold by third-party sellers for $370.
Oh.
Yes. So that is Nintendo's newest console that it wants in everyone's home and in everyone's living room. I cannot pick up one from Nintendo or Amazon. So the thing I wanted to bring up specifically was, why do you think Nintendo has done this for a while? Because this is not entirely new. This is not entirely new grounds. We've had the NES Classic show up in, I don't even want to say in stores, quote unquote in stores, and then sell out immediately, and you cannot get your hands on one of them these days without paying an exorbitant amount of money. And the SNES Classic is looking the same way now as well. There's even some games that have come out that are relatively hard to find, and they're just the video games for the console.
Yeah, so, I get what you're saying.
I'm interested to see like what you think possibly could be going on in that instance.
All right, so yeah, my base idea is that they're trying to make their product seem special. Like, oh, look how much in demand it is. It's always selling out. That's how popular we are, right? Like, kind of is like a way to make themselves look more desired than maybe Microsoft or Sony.
So I think you're close to the mark, but I think in a different way than you might be thinking. So
Okay.
I've been mulling this over for a while, and the first thing I thought of was that you can't really have a product that customers want because of rarity and then never print it because you're not earning any money that way.
Hmm.
You're creating a black market, a gray market for your goods without any of the benefits of having the money from it,
Hmm.
having the demand money from it. All you're doing is just selling 100% of the consoles you sell. But I think that's an important factor in it. I think, and hear me out on this. I think the reason that Nintendo might be trying to have all their products be rare and scarce and hard to find is because it looks incredible to go to their shareholders and say we have sold 100% of our stock of these products
Hmm.
and we have a demand waiting for more. So it's great to go to shareholders and just say, look, we've sold every single one of them. There's not a single one still out there for sale. Look at how great we're doing.
Yeah,
For,
that makes some sense to me.
now, I don't think this is a sound business strategy for
I mean,
anything
yeah.
because all it's doing is making it that people who want the product are going to a different service, are going to like Amazon third-party sellers or eBay or anywhere else that is selling it for a ridiculously large amount of money.
Hmm.
But I can see where this would be a good strategy to just keep investors happy for a short time while maybe they build up interest in the Switch or some other product. I'm not entirely sure because I don't see what the end game of having just investors happy be.
I mean, having investors happy is literally a corporation's job.
Right,
It
but
pretty much because if they keep investors happy like that, then they can pretty much keep doing whatever the hell they want.
but
That's
event
basically how it works.
but eventually they do need to deliver on these because what
Are
they're
you
doing right
familiar
now
with?
is more or less promises.
You're right. You're right. They definitely should be making more, right? Um, I mean, a bit of it could be just them not expecting how much demand is needed. I know a bit of it is they want to make sure that their console is affordable for anybody,
Yeah,
right? That is definitely some of it. Um, but they're definitely not making enough to meet demand. That's for sure.
yeah,
So much that third party sellers are basically the only people you can get them through now.
exactly. And that's the crazy thing to me is that the to earn money off of this demand, they need to supply for the demand.
Hmm.
And if they aren't supplying for the demand, someone will buy it somewhere else. And that is money lost to Nintendo.
Hmm.
Maybe not super in the long term, because, I mean, somewhat in the long term, they'll buy games, they'll buy controllers, they'll buy all that. But the initial point of sale is not theirs. They've lost $300 basically. A potential customer has not bought from them.
That's
It,
fair. That's fair. I mean, you wouldn't. I mean, you really wouldn't be losing sales per se, right? You'd just be enabling a secondary market to make money. Because you're not actually. I wouldn't say they would be losing any sales there, because that would technically still be two people buying the same console.
right, but I mean, instead of two people buying one console, it is two. It could be two people buying two consoles.
Yeah, but that's only assuming that the first person was actually ever going to use it in the first place. The first person that buys it's only going to be a seller, right? He's not using that thing himself. He's somebody that's just buying for somebody else kind of deal. Making sure he has enough so that he can sell more to make a profit kind of deal. So in truth, they're not really missing out on people that way, right? I mean, like they definitely could be selling a lot more if they made more, right? But
Mm,
I don't see them as inherently losing sales that way.
hmm.
But I know I've definitely talked to sometimes to a few frustrated parents about like, oh, I'm trying to get my kid to Switch. Do you know how to get this? And they happen to know that I do a lot of games myself and be like, no, you pretty much got to do secondary sellers or put it on pre-order kind of deal.
Yeah, wait till something shows up. It's just odd to
Hmm.
me, this kind of market that's been built up around Nintendo products, because I don't think I've seen something like that before.
You're
That
right.
they're
It
creating artificial
is.
scarcity for a product that is their number one sell. It would be like if Samsung only sold phones, and when the Samsung Galaxy S8, whatever the newest version of it is, when that released, they only released 10,000 of them in the world.
Hmm.
And then after 3 months, they released a tweet that said, "Oh, we've heard your demand cries. We're releasing another 10,000 into the wild." And it's like, oh, that's super weird because
Yeah, it is sort of like that. The biggest difference is that phones are different. Like they're like you can easily go to another phone and not have too much of an issue, right?
yeah, I guess that's true. Anyone buying the Switch,
But the idea is still the same, though.
yeah, it's not meeting the demand in any way, shape, or form for your product as a business tactic. Because I mean, I do
Well,
somewhat believe that like,
I
th-
think a bit of it, right,
mhm.
is because of how poorly the previous console fared.
Yeah, yeah,
So like they're trying to make sure that the Switch is going to be seen as something that is successful. And if you sell 100% of product, that's pretty good. That looks good on paper to everybody, right? On
that
paper.
that is true because number one, they're trying to chase after the Wii success, which was them selling out of a console
Hmm.
that they never expected to legitimately,
Hmm.
and
And
then
then
moving
the
to the
Wii
Wii
U
U where
just
it didn't sell. Period. But I can see it from a financial advisor perspective of like, why are you guys doing this? Like it, like I understand like maybe keeping the investors happy, but we're losing money. Like
well, they're
people are
not.
trying to. Well, so hear me out. So instead of releasing the console out there and having it be a long tail of sales, like people buy it and then people buy it over time as well. All they're doing is just selling a boatload of consoles in a very very short time span.
Okay.
And I see that maybe looking good for quarterly reports, but it's it's what's the word for it?
Strange.
Not strange. No, no, no. It's hampering potential sales for your product.
I mean, yeah,
Because
it for sure is, right? It's like they want to guarantee that that their that their figures are solid every quarter kind of deal,
right,
right?
and the other gamble that they're playing is that with a limited amount of these consoles out in the world, they can only sell games for the amount of consoles that are out there. Nobody's going to
Hmm.
buy Breath of the Wild for the Switch if they don't own a Switch. So the longer they wait on this, the more chance they have of people losing interest in these games that come out.
But maybe one thing they're trying to prevent is making sure they don't have an excess of consoles ever, right?
Mm,
So that they don't have to actually rely on physical storage as much as somebody else may have to, like Microsoft or like Sony has to. I mean, that could be a thing too.
right, and I see that being a decent short-term strategy, but what happens when we get to the end of the Switch, the end of the Switch lifespan,
I
and
mean,
people still want it, but the new console comes out, and then you have actually lost all potential sales in the Switch.
I see what you're saying there, right?
Hmm.
But I don't think that's going to be as much as an issue, to be honest. Like, if they get to that point, then they don't have to worry about having excess stock anymore, and they won't have to be holding on to however many extra Xboxes or PS4s that the other companies would be. They just be all right. We don't have anything in stock. Let's just start a new line, so they don't have to worry about storage cost or maybe it's more fixed costs like those.
But
Because I see the biggest issue here is right that we don't really know the Nintendo corporate structure and how it works.
right. I mean, we're
We
we're
don't.
spitballing.
Yeah, that's. I feel like that's the biggest issue that we have right now. That unless like we did like a little bit more investigation with this, it'd be a little hard to really you know pinpoint the whys behind this.
Well, I feel like even being outside the corporation, it's difficult to say what they're doing. But
You're right, and
it
I'm not familiar with like how Japanese companies work on transparency and such.
right, right. But I mean, it's odd to me because I can point to most corporations and kind of take a good stab in the dark at what they're thinking, corporate planning wise. But Nintendo, for some reason, is going with this strategy that I've never seen before, and I can spitball a couple of ideas, but that is like, hmm, it feels
It
really
doesn't feel
like
like they're doing the right thing.
it doesn't feel like they're doing the right thing, and also it doesn't feel like that they have a long-term goal for it. It just feels like, well, this is what's keeping people happy for the moment.
Hmm.
We don't have another Wii U situation on our hands, so let's just keep going with it, I guess.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's odd, and with all their promises of making the Super NES stockable, that was actually an article that I was talking about at the beginning. Was that an article came out today? The president of Nintendo of America, Reggie Fils-Aimé, saying basically, do not pay scalper prices for the Super NES. We will have enough stock of it. And I basically had to sit there and think, okay, they're either saying that they have overmade this to the point that I will find one in a Walmart a week after release, or he's just lying.
Yeah, I mean they don't really have a good track history of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean it's not like they're. I don't really know what they're trying to do here, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But oh well.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll be revisiting this when the Super NES comes out,
Hmm.
and if anyone I know is able to get a copy of it, maybe.
Yeah.
But we'll
I
see.
mean, like we'll probably also end up doing a little more research into it for the next time we tackle this thing.
Yeah.
Since we're gonna, especially since we're gonna be trying with the new format and such.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Well, I think that's all we had for today.
I feel full. I feel happy.
I feel like we did something.
Think things have been achieved? Question mark.
There's like this void here, and it's just like filled in with noise.
I think it's the worst review of our podcast ever. It is a void that is filled with noise.
You know what? I'll take that review. That's one more than we've ever had.
Quality. Quality.
All right. Well, it was fun. You people have a nice night.
All right. See ya.
Wow.